I always wanted to serve on a jury.
I'm really super excited to be here, so I really appreciate you having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Creating this whole trial, Daddy.
I want to give a big shout out to the 13th Jury Podcast and Brandi.
Yeah, I applaud you guys. Keep doing what you're doing.
That every time we run into Phil Barber, you should reach for it.
And then I just looked at the jury, and it's sort of like, look.
I was in the eye of the storm, and you guys were watching the storm.
Hey, if you're bored of work, come pop in and say, hey, Washington.
You are a ray of sunshine, and I love what you've done with your YouTube channel.
Hello. Oh. I still have all my podcast stuff up where I was recording. Hello. Hello, my friends. Hello, my family. Hello. It is good to see you. Hello. Good morning or afternoon or whatever. It all runs together. I haven't changed out of pajamas. That means it's still morning, right? Is that how that works? Good morning. Good morning. Hello. Well, I've been working on the podcast episode, but I was watching, I put this on this morning so that I would make sure that if Goofball did get up there to testify in his own defense, that we could watch it live. And he did not do that. So let me save my podcast actually before I lose anything again. That made a hellacious week last week. Make sure I don't go through that again. Oh my gosh, my stomach's growling. I forgot to eat today. Okay, so we have the day started out with I was so sure they were going to say Goofball wants to take the stand, but they didn't. That's Not a Hippie, member for 6 whole months, half a year with my homies. Love it here. We love you too. Happy 6-month memberversary. Happy 6-month memberversary. Zach, hello. I'm here to chew gum and spread chaos, and I'm all out of chaos. Why do I not believe that you are all out of chaos? Oh my gosh, my stomach is growling. Thank you. Our favorite mediocre chaos spreader. Good to see you. Good to see you. Favorite mediocre chatter. Oh gosh. I gotta grab food. We gotta eat food while we're watching this. I guess it's 3 o'clock and I haven't eaten. That's why. Things happen when you get busy. Okay, so we have the day. The day started out with some arguments over exhibits that they the defense wanted to introduce. Apparently they did not give them to the prosecution until yesterday. And so there are some of them that the prosecution said that they are objecting to. So the judge will hear arguments over those later. But they also said that the trial has moved so fast that the defense witnesses are not ready to testify yet. Most of them, some of them, part of them, a few of them, whatever, are not going to be ready to testify until the end of the week. They only had one that was available for today, and that is Dr. Mark Chambers, who is a psychologist. So he testified today. That's the only one who's testified so far today. And then after that, I think the judge said that, I believe that she said she's sitting in the jury home, and they're going to hear the arguments about the exhibits. So I think that's where we're at. So there has not been a lot that has gone on today because of that. So we are going to listen and it's not a psychologist. I thought the doctor was a psychologist that we listened to today. Is it not? I turned it off after it started working again. All right, let's see. Let's get this show on the road. This is the doctor.
You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may be seated.
Thank you.
Please state and spell your first and last name for the record.
Mark Chambers, MarkChambers.
Thank you. Dr. Chambers, if you could begin by telling us a little bit about yourself, beginning with your education.
All right. I attended undergraduate studies at Stanford University, where I graduated with a major in psychology and a minor in biology. I graduated with distinction, which meant that I was in the top 10% of my class. I also was admitted to Phi Beta Kappa during that time. I also earned a master's degree at Stanford in education. My doctoral studies were conducted at Northwestern University, where I earned a degree in clinical psychology.
How are you currently employed?
I am self-employed with a practice in clinical and forensic psychology.
If you could please explain to us the difference between clinical psychology versus forensic psychology.
Clinical psychology is probably what most people think about when they think about psychology or psychologists. A clinical psychologist deals with problems in the human condition, mental disorders, or other kinds of personal problems people may have in their lives, like depression or anxiety. They do psychological testing to help better understand a person's issues or problems or situation, and then they provide treatment services, which we usually refer to as psychotherapy or counseling.
If you could explain to us, too, a little more in detail what is psychology. I think we all have a pretty general idea, but if we could just address that this morning.
Psychology is the science of behavior. And although most people might think of it as relating to thought processes or something that goes on inside the brain, that's not something that we can access directly with any kind of psychological or scientific methods. So we have to look at people's behavior, and then from that we sometimes infer things about the way that the human brain works or why people behave the way they do. But ultimately we are looking at behavior and then drawing conclusions from that.
In reference to forensic psychology, which you have been qualified in previous hearings to give expert testimony concerning, is it fair to say that psychology is basically taking well-accepted principles, scientific principles concerning human behavior and applying it to specific circumstances?
Yes, and those specific circumstances are related to some sort of court issue. So a forensic psychologist may do work in family court, conducting evaluations or child custody assessments. They may work in criminal courts like this one here to provide expert testimony that might help the trier of fact, either the judge or the jury, to understand a particular issue that's germane to the case. Sometimes we also work in lawsuits and provide testimony about maybe in a car accident, what kind of psychological trauma an individual has sustained. But ultimately, as you said, forensic psychology is the application of basic psychological principles and research to the issue at hand in the court-related proceeding. And as a result of that, a forensic psychologist sometimes has to be a little bit of a jack of all trades, because there are a lot of different areas of psychology that can apply to a court-related setting. And so we have to know a little bit about a lot of different things.
Okay, would you kind of, I guess, analogize that to that of a coroner? I mean, a coroner is called upon to give an opinion concerning manner of death.
Certainly, yes. A coroner has to know about head injuries and gunshot wounds and blunt force trauma and poisoning and all different ways of death that somebody might experience. So they can't be an expert in any one of those areas. They kind of have to know all of those things so that when they perform an autopsy, they can bring that knowledge to bear to determine the cause of death.
So we have scientific principles applied to specific fact scenarios that help judges, juries make certain determinations concerning issues of fact. Fair to say?
That's fair to say, yes.
You've given and been qualified to give testimony concerning eyewitness identification. If you could, and other matters, if you could please explain to us other areas in which you have been qualified and given expert testimony concerning.
Sure. One of the big things that I often testify about has to do with the reliability of memory, because a lot of court proceedings rely on the testimony of witnesses, and by virtue of that, the reliability of their memory as to what they observed or experienced, or what kind of testimony they're bringing to the court. So there's a lot of research on how memory works, the way in which it can be defective, and that can be helpful to the trier of fact to judge the credibility or reliability of a particular witness's testimony, rather than just assuming that whatever they say is automatically true. I've also testified about the effects of various medications or substances on behavior, including drugs and alcohol, because those things can distort the way people behave, the way that they think, the way that they react to.
His tie looks like the wallpaper. I gotta get some food.
Certain situations, and so that can be helpful to know. Stressful situations, trauma can also affect a person's behavior and reactions to certain situations, and so it can be helpful for a trier of fact to know more about that before making a judgment about the case in front of them.
And just so I'm clear then, you've been qualified to give testimony as a forensic psychologist, and as a forensic psychologist, your testimony could address a whole myriad of situations that affect people's behavior and why they do things.
That is correct, yes.
You have been called on in prior cases by defense counsel,
Yes.
myself included.
Correct.
Have you been called upon to give testimony as a forensic psychologist in prosecutions?
I certainly have, yes.
Federal cases, state cases, if you could please explain to us just briefly your involvement in prosecutions.
I've testified and consulted all over the world, and I think if I had to add them up, the number of prosecution versus defense cases is pretty evenly matched. But I've testified in family court, I testified in civil court, I testified in military and federal courts, as I said, in many, many jurisdictions.
And when you're called upon, let's say by a defense team or a defense attorney, you are not retained to give a specific opinion, fair to say?
No, I'm here to...
Defense-oriented or prosecution-oriented, something like that?
Correct. I'm here to elucidate the relevant psychological principles and research and knowledge that will help the trier of fact better understand a case. In some cases, it's not favorable to the party that is consulting me, and I have to tell them, I'm sorry, I can't help you because the research says this, and that's probably bad for your case. And that's okay. I mean, sometimes that means a little loss of work, but I've got plenty of work, so it's not really a concern for me.
In reference to these scientific principles upon which you draw opinions or conclusions, you're not a research psychologist.
I am not. I mean, I was trained in research. I have done research, but in my role as a forensic psychologist, my primary skill is understanding research, being able to read research studies that have been published by other researchers, and then gleaning from that the appropriate principles and understanding about human behavior that's relevant to the case.
And these research studies, again, fair to say, cover a wide array of circumstances.
Correct.
Your job is to review the research. And let me ask you this, the research, whether it be concerning false confessions, whether it be concerning memory, it's open to peer review. And if you could explain that to us.
Sure. So the peer review process is a safeguard to make sure that research that is published has done the things that it needs to do to be reliable. So if a research team conducts a study and then they coalesce their findings and then they put together a paper or an article that they'd like to publish, they then submit it to the journal that they would like to publish it, and then that journal sends the draft of the study to a couple of other experts in the field who then look it over, they critique it, they make suggestions of what things could be done better or questions that they feel like they have that the study doesn't answer that need to be answered in the study. And in most cases, then the study, if the editor of the journal feels like it still has merit despite the criticisms, it will send it back to the researchers with the suggestions and say, hey, can you make these changes and we'll take another look at it. Sometimes they'll accept it or reject it immediately, but most of the time it's that middle ground where they try to give some guidance to the researchers on how the paper can be better and more suitable for publication. So by the time a study gets published in a scientific journal, in a peer-reviewed scientific journal, it has been looked over by several sets of eyes, not just the researchers who are submitting the paper.
When you're called upon to give expert testimony concerning issues in a case, sometimes you're called upon to give a wide variety of opinions, and sometimes you're called upon to give a very narrowly tailored opinion as to perhaps a single topic.
Yes, I think that's fair to say.
And in this case, you were retained to give testimony in the state of Nevada versus Robert Tellis.
Correct.
Did I reach out to you in reference to this case?
No, I believe that I was originally retained on this case by the defense investigator.
Okay, and that was prior to my involvement, to your knowledge, in this matter.
That's my understanding, yes.
You were called upon to review certain evidence in this case to give testimony concerning suicide attempts for those that are involving charges or
Yes.
facing charges.
That's correct.
Let's talk about this. Individuals who may be charged with a crime attempting to commit suicide. How common is it?
Well, first of all, it's hard to say because there's a lot of people that go into custody, but it's not very common. I think it's fair to say that it's probably less than 1 in 1,000 suspects or defendants who are involved in the criminal justice system. So it's not particularly common, but it is more common than it is in the general public. So people who are involved in the criminal justice system do commit suicide or attempt suicide at a higher rate than the general public.
Are there risk factors that have been identified by peer-reviewed scientific research on this issue?
Well, yes. One of the risk factors that has been identified is the severity of the crime, the severity of the charge. So if somebody is accused of a particularly severe charge, then the risk for suicide or an attempted suicide is higher.
Fair to say that the severity of a murder charge is about as serious as it can get?
I would think so.
Is an attempted suicide a reliable indicator of a guilty conscience?
Not necessarily, no.
And is that based upon research?
Yes.
And if you could explain this issue.
So in 2011, there was a study published of a very comprehensive research project where they looked at over 27,000 suicides that were committed by individuals who were involved in the criminal justice system. And then they compared those individuals to over 500,000 individuals who were also involved in the criminal justice system but did not commit suicide, so that they could identify, well, what makes these people a little bit different than the people who didn't commit suicide. First of all, I think it probably is obvious that individuals who came in with a mental health problem were already at higher risk because those are the people that typically commit suicide. So it wouldn't necessarily have anything to do with whether they're being charged or not, but it's clear from the research that the stress of being accused of a crime, particularly a severe crime, as I said, can cause people to commit or attempt suicide, whether they're guilty or not. And for the study that I referenced, for instance, found that there were people who had gone through the system, were adjudicated not guilty, and after their case was done, they were still at a higher risk for suicide. Other people who had their cases dropped but had still been accused of this crime were at a higher risk for suicide. So it was clear from the study that it's more the process of being involved in the criminal justice system, being accused of a crime, that produces the stress that can result in suicide than guilty conscience itself. And I should add, part of the problem that even addressing that question of guilty conscience is that, remember I said earlier about what psychology is, and it isn't. It's about behavior, it's not about mental processes. So to accurately answer that question, we would have to know what's in the brain of the individual. Guilty conscience, by definition, regards what's going on inside, not what the person is doing. And so there are going to be many, many cases where we don't know if the person is guilty or not. So it becomes difficult to answer that question. But we do know that some people, even after they have been found not guilty by the system, just being involved in the system is a suicide risk.
And just so we're clear, you're not called upon to give testimony concerning the guilt or innocence of Mr. Tellis?
No, of course not.
That's obviously within the purview of this jury and not yours.
Absolutely.
So just so I'm clear on your testimony, if a person attempts to commit suicide after being accused of the crime, that doesn't mean that they probably did.
It's not a reliable indicator, no.
Innocent people, or people that have been exonerated of a very serious crime, have attempted suicide.
Yes.
You are aware that Mr. Tellis cut his arms pretty severely in this case.
I am.
Did you have an opportunity to discuss this issue with Mr. Tellis?
I did.
Did he express to you concerns that he had at the time that he did this?
Objection, hearsay.
Was his explanation to you consistent with the studies that you have just referred to?
Objection, hearsay.
Again, you have given testimony concerning these studies where a person gets accused, and as a result of the accusation and the process, not necessarily guilt, but the accusation and the process, that person attempted suicide.
Yes,
And that attempted suicide does not necessarily mean a guilty conscience.
correct.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you.
So the entire point of this is basically because they want to have the jury hear that him and his suicide attempt or whatever is not consciousness of guilt. That was the whole point of all of that.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Can I have some sort of overview of what you reviewed in preparation for your testimony this morning?
Certainly. I was sent the discovery from the case, which I believe included the police report, which essentially documents the investigative process that the police went through when they were assigned to this case. I think that also included some hospital records for the defendant when he was hospitalized immediately after his arrest because of the injuries to his arms. I think I saw some photos that were related to the case, and I was also provided with medical records for the defendant during his time in custody at Clark County Detention Center.
Okay. And in terms of the police reports, you mentioned that you had we call it the OR, the officer's report. Is that what you're referring to?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. How about any witness statements? Have you reviewed any of those?
I believe there were witness statements in there as well, yes.
Okay. And then did you review photographs associated with the case?
As I mentioned earlier, yes.
Video?
Don't recall seeing any video.
DNA reports?
I think I saw some DNA reports, yes.
Reports from like phone extractions, anything like that?
I think I saw a log of some phone records, so I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to.
I'm talking more like the contents of a phone?
I don't recall seeing that, but that doesn't mean I didn't.
Okay. And when was it that you were provided these materials?
It was some time ago. I was retained on this case, I believe, late last year, but I couldn't tell you the exact date.
Okay. And it sounds like you interviewed Mr. Tellis at some point?
I did.
When was that?
I actually interviewed him twice. I interviewed him earlier this year, I believe, and then I also interviewed him last Saturday.
Okay. And in either interview, did you record your conversation with him?
I did not.
Did you take notes?
I did.
Are your notes available?
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Well, do you still have your notes?
Yes.
Okay. So if the court ordered you to provide them, you could do that?
I could, yes.
Okay. And you understand, of course, we don't have them yet.
I haven't been asked for them, no.
Okay. And so if we made that request and the court agrees with us, you'd be able to provide it?
Certainly.
Okay. Besides Mr. Tellis, did you interview anyone else?
I did not.
How long were the interviews that you conducted with him?
The first interview was about 3 hours, I believe, and then the more recent one was maybe an hour and a half.
Okay. Did you ever administer any tests to him?
I did not.
So it was just interviews, and so you're sort of relying on his description of events?
Well, I mean, I captured his description of events.
Okay. But what he's telling you is his factual version, right?
I would assume so.
Okay. I mean, you don't ever verify that with anybody else, is that fair?
I have not.
Okay. And so you're kind of getting information from a single source?
Well, I'm getting information from him for the information that he has available to him.
Okay, and like you could apply, I mean, sometimes there are tests administered in order to do psychological assessments of people?
Correct.
And none of those were done?
No.
On either occasion?
No.
Okay. And you're not here to tell us anything about events that occurred on December the 2nd of 2022, correct?
Well, no.
No. I mean,
Not
you haven't,
on that date, no.
You haven't been to Bronze Circle?
Counsel, I believe it's September 2nd. There was a question. December 2nd.
Oh, I thought I said September. I apologize. I mean September, if I misspoke.
Yes, no.
I mean, you haven't been to Bronze Circle?
No.
You're not familiar with any of the evidence other than what you read in the officer's report?
Whatever I read in the police report, yes.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that you sometimes testify like about the reliability of memory and that sort of thing, and that is sometimes used in cases where there is eyewitness testimony to be relied upon?
Yes.
And then sometimes I would assume it's to talk about like children who recall instances of sexual abuse that occurred in the past. They're challenging their memories of that.
That's right.
And so you kind of provide, I guess, context to how they might misremember things.
In some cases, yes.
Okay. And I think you said on direct examination that that going through the criminal justice system just in itself is a stressful event.
Yes, certainly.
And that correlates with the severity of the charge.
The risk of suicide correlates with the severity of the charge, yes.
Okay. And then what we're saying is, I think you said it doesn't, I think your words were not necessarily when asked if it was like the suicidality was indicative of a guilty conscience, correct?
Yes.
And so not necessarily to me means sometimes it could be.
Sure.
Okay. So there are sometimes people are suicidal because of feeling guilty about the crime they've committed.
I think that's almost certainly true.
Okay. Do you have any kind of information, I don't know if there are studies on that, about how often that might be the case?
Well, because, as I said earlier, we don't know what's going through a person's mind in most cases unless they tell us.
Right.
People that commit suicide don't usually have much to say.
Right, but if
And
you
so-
attempted it, you would.
Right, and even when they tell us, we can't always rely on that as being accurate. So it's a very difficult question to address directly through scientific study.
Because people who have attempted suicide may be unreliable narrators about why they did things, right?
Absolutely,
And they may be self-interested when they're relaying events to you.
for sure.
And they may be motivated by sort of wanting to avoid criminal responsibility when they're talking to you.
Yes, definitely.
All those factors are always at play when you have someone charged with a crime. Would that be fair?
They can be.
Okay. And do you think there's a correlation of suicidality when people, like in high positions in society, have what's called like a fall from grace? Do you know what I mean? Being publicly embarrassed?
Yes, I think that that's probably a factor because when I talk about the stress of being accused of a crime, whether or not you did it, there are a lot of factors that play into that. There's family, there's friends, there's finances, there's your employment, but also, as you said, if it's somebody who has a prominent position in society, just the public scrutiny of being accused, whether you're guilty or not, is sometimes inescapable. And we see cases of that all the time where people are accused of a crime, they're tried, they're found not guilty, but that scrutiny, that public scrutiny continues. Not everybody accepts a not guilty verdict, and so it can be very difficult to function in society afterwards.
But that public scrutiny would still exist and the embarrassment would still exist if you were guilty too, right?
Right.
And if, say, you were the subject of really negative articles that were published countywide, that would be a stressor that someone might experience as well, right?
Correct.
Being accused of inappropriate behavior in the workplace would be a stressor for somebody, right?
I would think so.
Being accused of being a bad manager would be stressful for somebody, right?
Almost certainly.
Okay. And sort of being accused of being kind of incompetent at your job would be a stressor if that was something that was like published to, say, the county.
Yes.
Okay. And those types of things cause stress on individuals that may or may not manifest as suicide, but they're troubling to individuals to experience. Is that fair?
Sure, some more than others. It's all about personality and experience, but yes, I would think generally that's true.
And when you say some more than others, if they're someone who puts a lot of importance on their role in a particular office or status, it would be more upsetting for that type of person to have maybe negative articles written about them?
I would think so, yes.
Okay. Could I have the court's indulgence? Thank you.
Yes, just some follow-up. Based upon your testimony and your opinion, there's not really this correlation concerning more evidence against someone for a serious crime than results in a higher likelihood of suicide.
I'm sorry, could you rephrase that?
Absolutely. So there was questions that you were asked concerning evidence in a particular case. And are you able to say there's any correlation between, let's say, the more evidence of a person having committed a crime, that being correlated to the higher likelihood of suicide?
I think it's probably more accurate to say that it comes down to the individual's perception of his situation. So, for instance, if someone believes that they're in big trouble, that the cops have them dead to rights, whether or not they're guilty, that probably produces more stress than somebody who thinks, I can get out of this, or I'm good, or they don't have anything on me. So the objective status of that person's situation is probably less important than the subjective perception of the situation that they're in.
So again, that underscores, obviously you agree that human beings can be fairly complex and our behavior can be fairly complex.
That's pretty obvious, yeah.
It is, and oftentimes people think, well, if this person committed suicide. If he committed suicide, he must have committed the crime. You're here to dispel that common view.
Yes.
And there's actually scientific data that does so.
Right.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Nothing else, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Hawks.
Jury question. I love a jury question. This is really good. Buffalo chicken dip. Taste of the South. Buffalo chicken dip. I don't know. It's from Winn-Dixie. It's really good. If anybody's interested. Oh, here we go. Jury question.
Number 15. Has anyone in your experience ever attempted suicide in an attempt to gain sympathy from being accused?
I think that's almost certainly true. Yeah.
Good question. Look at his face. He knows that's a good question, and he knows that question don't work in his favor. Listen again.
Has anyone in your experience ever attempted suicide in an attempt to gain sympathy from being accused?
Has anyone in your experience ever attempted suicide in an attempt to get sympathy when they're accused?
I think that's almost certainly true, yes. Especially when the suicide attempt is not successful. Sometimes people do what we call suicidal gestures, which just refers to the fact that it kind of looks like a suicide attempt, but it wasn't fatal. And in many cases, people do that just to garner sympathy or to deflect attention from some other issue that they're concerned about.
Any follow-up, Mr. Jackson?
Bam!
I do, thank you. And in reference to this, and we're not saying that's necessarily the case in this case, are we?
No, I'm not at all.
And this perhaps deflection, this perhaps attempting to get sympathy doesn't necessarily equate to knowledge of guilt or guilt.
No, it definitely does not.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Ms. Weber, anything else?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Chambers, thank you very much for your testimony here today. You can step down.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You are excused from this appeal. Thank you very much for being here.
I'll step down, send
Okay.
my next witness is available.
That was a great question. And that was it.
Later in the week, we'd anticipate our next witness being available after the lunch break, Your Honor.
Oh, okay, this afternoon?
Correct.
Oh, they are going to have one this
So at
afternoon.
this time, we are going to break for lunch during this by voice, phone, email, text, internet, or other means of communication or social media. Read,
All right.
listen to any news or media account.
So that was all we missed from this morning. And they're apparently not back from lunch yet. Mildred, hello. Hello, Mildred. Thank you for the super chat. Q, small tear from Tell Us. Yeah, he's... Ugh. Bless him. Bless him. See, all that. Look, I started at 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock. So that we could speed trial. This trial moves quickly, as in efficiently through the witnesses. However, they're always late. So it takes, like yesterday, we streamed for less than 6 hours and made it through a full 2 days of testimony. So what do you do? What do you do? Cue the small tear from Ugh. Candace Hoff, hello. Wanted to say hello to all my friends. Hello, Candace Hoff. Hello. Hello, our friend. So you're saying that you miss Lally and his dragging things out. Not what I was thinking. Not where I was going with that. Not really what I was. No, that's a big no. That's a big no. Actually, it's funny because before we started today, I was working on the podcast episode. That's what I've been working on today. And I having to listen to Lally again. It's not the best use of time listening to Lally. Do I heat the dip first? I didn't. I'm just eating it cold because I was in a hurry. I just grabbed it out of the fridge so that I could eat it here in front of all of y'all. I can't eat while I'm recording. So, and I've been writing and recording all day. So I'm putting it on Twitter. Brandi misses Lally. It will make the logos propel. That's a neighborhood I hardly go to anymore. Twitter. Baker, no way missing Lally. I still have a migraine from him and his dial phone. Oh my gosh. Yo, it's so bad. It's so bad. It's so bad. He's not my favorite. Ken says, on my phone, so I can't tag, but so glad to see everyone. We are glad to see you too. What, if anything, don't I miss, says Silly Pick, Lally, and the only fan. I'd rather have the only fan than Lally's voice, though. For sure. I haven't streamed a trial in 2 days. Even Lally would. Lally could make those like put you to sleep audio things. Not that I would listen because his voice just annoys me. But, you know. But for some people who don't know what a liar he is. Let's see. I have not seen any, there have not been any updates that I have seen. Let me check again. I have not seen any updates about the decision. What, if anyone, who, if anyone, was driving the ambulance? Oh, they're back. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Look at his face.
Stipulate to the presence of the panel? Yes, Your Honor. And the defense?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, everyone. Please be
Will you
seated.
call your names?
Tracy Torres McLaurin.
Hello.
Please watch your step.
And if you'll remain standing, raise your right hand and face the clerk, please.
You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in
Who's
this
this?
action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
You may be seated.
Who is
Please
this?
state and spell your first and last name for the record.
TRACYMIGLIORE.
Thank you. Ma'am, you also go by, is it McGlory?
Just go by McGlory, yes.
Okay. Turning your attention back to September of 2022, did you see something on TV that caused you to call the police?
Yes.
Do you recall what the circumstances were and what you saw on TV that caused you to call police?
The description of the person I seen in the park.
Oh, she's the one that called Crime
What they were,
Stoppers.
what they were wearing stood out.
Okay. Now, did you see video on TV concerning a crime in reference to a journalist, and you saw clips of that and you said, I recognize that person?
Yes.
If I may turn your attention, and for the record, this is State's Exhibit 338. This is the press release that was released on September 5th, 2022.
Yeah, their dubbing is off. It's weird.
It's not playing. Can you see that?
Yes.
Was that the clip that you had seen on TV?
Yes.
And as a result of seeing this clip, did you call the police?
Yes.
Now, you had testified, get this to stop, that you had seen something that gave rise to concern because you had seen this individual previously.
That's correct.
Where was it that you saw what you believed was this individual?
At Bruce Trent Park?
Bruce Trent Park?
Yes.
That's in Clark County, Nevada.
Yes.
Is Bruce Trent Park off of Vegas Drive in Rampart?
That's correct.
When did you see this individual?
It was about 4:30 in the evening.
Okay. And what date do you recall?
It was on the 28th of August.
So that would have been a Sunday.
That's correct.
And about 4:30.
Yes.
I'm going to show you what, if we could have marked as defense exhibit Y2.
Because she thought she saw this person
And this would be admitted by stipulation?
days before at the park.
I'm going to show you, if I can get the Elmo up. Is this right here, Bruce Trent Park? I showed you this prior to your testimony.
Yes, you did, yeah.
And that's the park you were at?
That's correct.
Now, is this a Summerlin Park? Is there like a soccer park complex there?
Yes, I believe there's for softball and maybe ice skating, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Just other things.
So when you saw this person, it was Sunday, August 28th, 2022, was it warm outside?
Very warm. Okay.
And anything catch your attention concerning this individual that you saw?
Yes, yes.
What did you see, please?
I seen somebody that was fully covered from head to toe and wearing black gloves. Yes,
Did this individual have tennis shoes on?
yes,
You have to speak up.
yes, yes,
Did this individual have a straw hat on like the one that we saw in that clip?
yes, sir.
And where did you see this person at this Bruce Trent Park?
I seen him walking across the children's play area.
Okay.
And I seen him enter the men's restroom.
If I could have what's going to be marked and admitted by stipulation, defense exhibit.
C2.
C2.
No objection.
It's admitted.
Is this the bathroom in this Bruce Trent Park?
Yes, sir.
How long was this person around this bathroom?
He went in and then he went out, came out, and then he went back in.
And you say he, how do you know that it was a male versus a female?
I can tell by the way he walked.
Okay. Did you interact with this person, speak
No.
to this person?
No, I did not.
Were you concerned regarding the way this person looked in reference to your grandchildren or those that you were with?
Yes, I was very concerned for the children in the park.
Now, you didn't call the police on August 28th, this Sunday, when you saw this person.
No, I did not.
But you called the police after you saw this person again on September 5th for this release. It was a Metro press release concerning a suspect.
Yes, I saw it.
And did you call and give the same description, these same concerns when you called? And let me ask you this, it was on September 7th, wasn't it, that you called?
Yes.
Were you ever interviewed by any detectives or any police officers in reference to this person that you saw?
No.
Did this person also have a bag?
Yes.
Do you recall what type of bag this person had?
A duffel bag?
A duffel bag. Do you recall the color?
It was black?
A black duffel bag.
Yes.
Was this person's face covered
Yes.
with gloves?
With gloves?
Yes, I'm asking you, this person have gloves?
Oh, he had gloves on, but his face was covered with a mask.
Okay.
You know, like a COVID mask.
And you were able on August 28th to get a good look of this person's getup?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
You got a good view of this person?
Yes.
You were close enough. About how far were you? From me to you, farther? What was your vantage point?
Probably where the officer is at the back door.
Okay. Good 30 feet?
Yes.
Thank you.
At one point, I was that far. He was that far from me, but as he went into the men's restroom, I was closer. I could see him a lot closer.
You never spoke to him?
No.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Okay. Good afternoon, ma'am. Hi.
Let's, this is Defense Exhibit 22. I think you just said that you, at one point, were about 30, oh.
For the record, that's Z.
ZZ, thank you. I believe you said at one point you were like 30 feet from this individual?
Yes.
And so can you, there's a mouse in front of you. Do you see that on the table?
Okay.
Are you able to kind of indicate where you were and where that person
think so, too.
was?
So, if I may ask, is the right side the women's bathroom and the left side is the men's restroom?
So I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to give you
Okay.
answers, but maybe you could just point out where you were?
Okay, I was actually, I'm gonna say it was about, kind of like back over here.
Okay, so in the image, sort of the lower right corner in that sand area?
Mhm.
Is that yes? I'm
Yes,
sorry.
please.
And the individual was closer, I assume, to the structure?
Yes,
And which side of the structure was the individual on?
on the men's side,
Okay, and whatever side that is?
yes.
And do you recall now which side that was?
I'm trying to identify the park because I've been to this park several times. I'm trying to identify what side
Oh,
the men's
okay.
restroom is on. It's not
Okay.
really clear, you know?
Okay, so you can't, I mean,
It's hard to tell.
you've been to that park, but you can't tell by this photo where you were? Or which side, I guess, is the men's side, if I'm understanding you?
Yeah, I'm thinking it's way far over here is the men's side.
Okay, so then to the other side of the picture.
Yes,
And then you're, as I understood you, and correct me if I'm wrong, you were more in the sand area in the lower right part of the picture?
yes. Mhm.
Okay, and so did that distance ever get closer?
Yes, because he walked across the children's playground area to the men's restroom.
Okay, so.
So I
and
seen
is-
him from far away, and
Okay.
it concerned me when I first saw him, but then when he walked across the playground to the men's restroom, that concerned me even more.
Okay, now, the person that you saw, you assume male because of how the person walked?
Yes,
How tall was the person?
I'd say about 5'9", 5'8", 5'9".
5'8" or 5'9"? And we said that you believe the person was male. It sounds like the person had gloves on, and then I think I heard you say a face covering as well?
Yes.
So I would assume you don't know what that person's face looks like.
Well, I seen his face when he was running.
Okay.
So
Tell me about that.
So when I left the park with my granddaughter, I went around the corner up Durango. Let's see. So there's Rampart, and then there's another side, which is Durango.
Okay.
So I went up Durango towards West Cliff, I believe it is. And I seen him running up, running towards another park that's down the other way. But as he was running, his hat was coming off, and his hoodie was coming off, and he didn't have his face mask on.
Okay.
But he looked like a light-skinned male bald.
Light-skinned male bald?
Yeah.
And you said there was a hoodie as well?
That's correct.
What color was that hoodie?
I believe it was a dark gray.
Dark gray?
Yeah.
And then the build of the person, would you say heavy build, medium build?
Thin.
Thin?
Yeah.
And when you see his face, how far away are you at that point?
Well, I'm driving, and he's running on the sidewalk. So
Okay.
I'd say about maybe 30 feet.
Okay, 30 feet.
Maybe less. I don't
Did
know.
he have
Was
burden
your
or any
car actually
eyebrows?
moving?
Yes, it was moving.
Okay, so you're in kind of a moving car, and then you observe him the second
I
time?
was going slow, yes.
Yeah.
Just to see, yeah.
Okay, and the person, as I understand it, caused you concern, but you didn't really see the person do anything except run and kind of walk across the children's playground?
Yes.
Okay, and when you saw the individual in the park when you weren't in your car, the person had gloves on?
Yes.
And then tennis shoes?
Correct.
And walked, I guess, looking at this exhibit, is the children's park to the right side?
It's just depending on what street you're on. If you're on Vegas, you're looking at the splash pad and the men's restroom. If you're on Rampart, you're going to be looking at the actual whole playground, and you'll see the side of the women's bathroom.
Okay. And does this exhibit that we have in front of you, does that not give you enough detail to be able to orient on where that playground might be?
No, it doesn't give me enough detail.
Okay.
Because then it's kind of hard to determine my distance.
Sure.
Especially because we were at the splash pad at one point.
Okay.
And we walked away from the splash pad because of that.
Okay. And then when you saw the person near the men's restroom, the individual walked in and walked out?
Yes.
How long was the person in the restroom?
Just for a second.
A second?
Walked in, yeah. I'd say maybe like 5 seconds, and then walked out.
Okay. And you see all this on August the 28th?
That's correct.
And obviously, nothing about it on August the 28th caused you concern, right? I mean, to call the police, I should say.
It did, but I think I was just trying to process it because I was a little creeped out by it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what made you, like, when you say, like, creeped out on August the 28th?
It didn't look right. Something looked very eerie about the whole thing.
Okay.
Especially the way he was moving his hands.
And
That frightened me, and especially because the children were there's a lot of kids at the playground that day.
Okay. So you were concerned about this person, like, immediately when you saw him on August the 28th?
Yes.
And then you get in the car with the children that are with you, and then you see him again running?
Yes.
What was he doing that caused you concern when he was running?
I don't know. I think it was just seeing him walking the way he did and then seeing him running. It made me think something happened or something was happening. I didn't know. I was more concerned he was going to go to another park. And I don't know. I was just scared for the kids. That's all.
You were scared for the kids. Did you ever see him interact with the kid?
No, nothing at all.
And when you say, like, you were concerned about the way he was walking, what about that caused you concern?
Something just didn't look right about it.
Okay. And was it, like, because the person was walking fast?
It's
or
how far it
slow,
is.
or-
First of all, he was completely covered with gloves on in the heat that way.
Mhm.
He didn't look like a homeless man.
Sure.
So that's what
The
caught my
clothing.
attention. It caught my attention, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so were you, based on what you saw on August the 28th, did you think about calling the police and reporting this person?
No, it didn't dawn on me just yet what was going on. I kind of like just let it be. I know I wasn't really thinking something was going to happen, you know.
Okay, and so
Yeah.
it's sometime after that that you see the public information video sent out by Metro?
Yes,
Do you remember what date you saw that?
I believe it was the 7th.
The 7th of September?
I believe so.
Okay, so what do you have up there?
Oh, I'm sorry. It was just my notes of the date.
Oh,
Of the date.
May I
I'm
have
sorry.
a copy of those, please, Your Honor?
It was like 2.5 miles. This park is 2.5 miles from Jeff's house.
Can I just take these up while I'm doing cross, and then I'll give you.
Here's the, oops. Here's the park. Here's
So
Jeff Gearman's house.
These notes that you.
2.5
on
miles.
this piece of paper, did you type these?
Actually, my husband did.
Okay.
But
It was sort of based on what you're
it was
saying?
based on the police report that I made, yes. Based on the police report that I made.
Okay,
Yeah.
so at some point, it looks like on your notes, it says Wednesday, 9/7 at 7:43 PM.
Okay.
Is that the date you
That's
called
the
the
date,
police?
yes.
Okay, and so you reported, you saw something on TV and then you make the report after that?
Yes.
Okay, and then did your husband just write these in order for you to keep your memory to sort of, I
Just
guess?
to help me, because it was, 2022, so.
Yeah.
It was a little foggy from that.
Okay,
you know.
and then, so did you kind of, it seems like you explained exactly what you just testified to
Yes.
this afternoon?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, and then after you made your report of the sighting to the police, it's my understanding that you weren't talked to?
No,
Okay, and did you ever make like any kind of follow-up call?
no,
Did you ever see this person in the area of that park again?
no, I hadn't gone back to that park for a long time,
Okay,
yeah.
not just at the park, but anywhere? Had you ever seen the person
Never,
again?
no.
Never? Okay, so the one time you see this person is on August the 28th?
That's correct.
And how long total time do you think you had to observe the person?
About 30 minutes.
Okay, so
Possibly.
quite a bit of time.
In between that time, yeah. It was in between that time of 30 minutes. Because I had to have my granddaughter home at 5.
Okay,
So we were kind of rushing, trying to play and get her home.
yeah.
So,
Did you think because of the outfit, the person might have been a worker or a groundskeeper, or
it did not look like that at all.
because the outfit looked different than that to you, or?
He looked very peculiar. I don't know.
Peculiar?
Yeah,
Okay.
just,
Was there reflection
Something didn't
on
seem
the
right.
clothing? Was the clothing reflective?
no.
There was no reflective
No.
clothing on at all? Okay. And then just sort of the hat that you described?
Yes, and something just didn't seem right because that hoodie was very tight on his face.
Okay, so
Yeah.
there's a hoodie and then a hat on top of that?
Yes.
Okay. And that hoodie, I think you described as sort of darker color?
Yes.
And then you see that when he's running and the hat comes up a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was coming off.
Okay,
as he was running.
just 1 second, okay? Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Your Honor, may I approach? I'd like to return her notes to her.
Should you mark it and put it in the record?
If that's okay with the witness and counsel, that's fine.
Do you mind if we mark it and make it part of the record, or do you want a copy of it?
I don't mind.
Okay. So just
Yeah,
court's
no problem.
exhibit.
Yeah.
Everything being, court's exhibit
May I
next to mine.
approach?
You may.
Excuse me, court exhibit number 16.
How far?
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Drexler?
Thank you, ma'am. I have no further questions. Thank you
Okay.
for your
Am I
testimony.
Thank you
done?
very much
Thank
for
you.
your, let me just make sure. Thank you very much for your testimony here today. You may step down. And you'll excuse me your subpoena. Thank you very
Thank you.
much for being here. You may call your next witness.
Your Honor, the second witness we were going to call, Ms. Loftus, had a flight delay. It's the way things work out. She was coming early, there's a flight delay, she's
She's-
not gonna be here until late this afternoon. We anticipate calling her in the morning. And there's another issue concerning a witness that I believe that we were going to address at the
Sure.
present.
Can I just have the attorney's approach so we
Absolutely.
can decide the time tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay, so my question is, all right, so she called Crime Stoppers about this person, which is good. Look, if you see something, say something. You know, you never know what's going to help and what's not. Because keep in mind, she sees something and she's like, okay, maybe this is something. Let me just tell them and they can do with it what they will. I thought it was weird. That looks similar to the, what he was wearing.
Okay, at this time, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to conclude for the day. During this recess, you're admonished not to discuss or communicate with anyone, including your fellow jurors, in any way regarding the case or its merits, either by voice, phone, email, text, internet, or other means of communication, or social media, or read, watch, or listen to any news or media accounts or commentary about the case, do any research, consult dictionaries, the internet, or reference materials, do any investigation, test a theory, recreate any aspect of the case, or in any other way investigate or learn about the case on your own, or form or express any opinion regarding the case until it is finally submitted to you. We'll be in recess till tomorrow morning at 10:30. Thank you very much.
So, she doesn't know, like, she's not calling saying, hey, I saw the guy, go get him. So she can only do what she can do. She's saying, hey, I saw this, it was weird, maybe, y'all should check it out, whatever. That's really all she can do. The defense is hoping to use that testimony as like, hey, look, there's, this whole other situation going on that wasn't followed up on, and it could have been somebody totally different who just runs around Vegas in this weird outfit doing weird stuff. Is it going to be effective? No. Probably not. Her seeing, I get that the defense is trying to raise doubt, but her seeing some dude with a hat and mask on running around the park a few days before the murder is not going to all of a sudden make his DNA not available, or, under his fingernails. It's not going to all of a sudden make the hat and the cut up shoe not have been found in his house. If anything, it's people are going to, the jury may hear it and kind of think the same thing that we did. Like, okay, well, maybe, there was somebody running around the park, that's either related to this or not, whatever, but it's not going to change all of the evidence that they have against him. But I think that, I get that the defense is going to try to do what they're going to try to do. So, but it ain't going to change all the nonsense that's already going on. Where is that Popeyes? And how far is that from that park? Do we know? Remember the Popeyes that he was taking all those pictures at? Hold on. Just curious. Robert Tellis, day 4. Virginia says, I'm back. What did I miss? The whole day. It's already. They are not.
Defense Exhibit N.
Where are... Hold on.
Norman's phone?
I did, yes.
And were they like sort of threatening audio recordings?
Remember... let me move myself.
What,
Remember all
what
these?
steps did you take in
Where was that? Did they say where that Popeyes was?
Oh, that 8/8 is not the date that image was
Oh, that's
taken.
right. It was 8/15, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Of
And-
2022.
Yes, of 2022.
Which was still a couple
and that
days
would
before.
just be another image?
Correct. There was numerous
Or a
that were
couple
just
weeks
like
before,
that.
rather.
Another one?
Correct?
Another one?
Yes.
Because I don't know. I'm just thinking, if it was him, we already know he's doing weird stuff around town anyway. Marie Moss with our official stats. We had 2 witnesses, 3 objections, 1 sidebar, 1 amazing, wonderful, thoughtful jury question, and defense witnesses 0 for 2. Bless it. Bless it. Didn't go well for the defense. But also, is it even possible for it to go well for the defense at this point? I mean, really? I don't think so. Like, the thing is like, how do you overcome him being a total douche? Sorry, that was aggressive. How do you... Okay, let's try that again. How do you get over this guy being a very unlikable defendant and all that evidence? Unfiltered. So whatever. Today was a very short day. Very, very short day. So tomorrow we will continue with the trial, see how it goes. Hopefully I'll have the podcast episode out tomorrow, the Karen Reed one, and then I should have the part 2 of the Ashley Benefield out on either Friday or Saturday, depending on how quickly I can get them done. But that's the plan. That's the plan. Raoul says she's a weak witness to place in the number 2 slot. I know. And I know that they're having some scheduling issues. So I know that they're having, like, you know. But honestly, is there anybody they could put in those spots that could make a difference? Yeah, he's gotten away with a lot for a long time. And I think that I don't think anybody's really rooting for him. Shelby, member for 8 whole months. I finished cycle 1 chemo radiation day. Woo woo! Oh, yay. That's exciting. That's exciting. That's a big, big milestone. I mean, not the 8 months. 8 months is 2, but finishing the first cycle. Woohoo! Congratulations to you. Congratulations to you. And happy 8 months. Jen Conley, Squirrel Mind Mastery. I listened to the Ashley Benefield one. Great job. Thank you. Thank you. We are rooting for Shelby Taylor. Shelby Taylor. All right. Well, short day today, fellas. Ladies and gents. Boys and gals. Pets. Etc. Short day today. I will get the stream for tomorrow set up. We will probably start about the same time. Even then, even starting late, we're catching up because they so slow. So slow. But, you know, that's okay. But I'll get the stream set up in a little while. I'm going to keep chugging along at the podcast episode. So when I take a break in a little while, I will get it set up for tomorrow. And we will continue on with this. Sound good? I love speed trialing. I love speed trialing. Love it, love it. Zoop, zoop. All right, y'all. I appreciate you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for hanging out. Even though we only had about an hour together today, it was the most exciting hour of the day. Oh, also, update for those of you who have been praying. Gregory was released from the hospital. So they busted him out. I mean, not like busted him out. Like he was actually like allowed to. But he is out of the hospital. So he's still got, you know, a road to go on recovery. But he is out of the hospital. So great, great, great news. When I'm there in a few weeks, I'll have to, I'll be staying with them. So I'll do a live from there so y'all can meet him and Aaron, the family, the fam. So good stuff. Good stuff. Good news all around. Good news for Gregory. Good news for Shelby. Good news all around. That's good stuff. I appreciate y'all. Be Kind Tiger's been lurking. Come on out and say hello. I appreciate y'all hanging out. I appreciate. Did the ads stop? I hit a reset thing on the ad thing. So have y'all had any more ads in the second half of this? I don't know why. It normally doesn't do it because I don't turn on the monetization until afterwards. I don't know. We'll see. Oh, Chrissy Bacon says I didn't get more. Okay, then maybe that fixed it. Because normally it's not too bad. But are these state's attorneys the same in the case of Smith, who said she gave her baby to someone at the airport and one time told the baby's father she killed him? Curious. I don't know. I don't know that one. They're the ones that prosecuted Thami. Old Thami. One of my least favorite individuals. Hello, wild child. Hello. 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 I like how all the lurkers pop in to say hello right before we end. So we get to say hi. All right, y'all. Thank you all so much. If you haven't hit the like button yet, please do so. I will see you tomorrow. We are one step closer to this one being over and maybe, just maybe, hearing Doofus get up there and talk, and he will more than likely think that he's the smartest person in the room and he's going to convince everybody that he's not guilty. What a buffoon. Whatever. Anyway, maybe we'll actually get to hear it. I'm here for it. I'm here for it. I love it when stupid people testify. Love it. Love it. All right, y'all. I love you so much. Thank you for everything. I will see you tomorrow.
I gotta go. I can't stick around here forever.
It was wonderful. Everybody behaved. Everybody's always so nice to me.
Just love your channel and
Goodbye, good people. Now, how the heck do I get out of here?